Zimbabwean innovator and inventor Maxwell Chikumbutso paid a courtesy call showcasing his latest invention of the world's first self-powering vehicles and motorbikes that run just on radio waves.
In Zimbabwe, a self-taught inventor claims he has built what the world's biggest tech companies still haven't, an electric car that powers itself. His name is Maxwell Chikumbutso, and in January 2025, he stood at the gates of Zimbabwe's State House, showing off a machine he says could end the global energy crisis. He has no engineering degree and no PhD in physics, yet over the years he has quietly built prototypes, from generators to drones, all running on the same mysterious technology. Some call him Africa's Tesla, others say it's all smoke and mirrors. By the end of this video, you'll have everything you need to decide which one he is, including one detail buried in this story that tells you almost everything. Maxwell's story doesn't start in a garage like Steve Jobs or a dorm room like Mark Zuckerberg. It starts with a kid in Zimbabwe obsessed with how things worked, growing up in a country where innovation usually takes a backseat to survival. He could have followed the conventional path. Instead, he chased a dream that would either make him a legend or a cautionary tale. His breakthrough moment came in 2009 when he claimed to have invented what he calls the microsonic energy device. The idea is that radio frequencies are constantly floating all around us, from radio stations, cell towers, and Wi-Fi signals, and his device supposedly captures those waves, amplifies them, and converts them into usable electricity. The implications are staggering. Imagine never charging your phone again. Picture electric cars that power themselves as they drive, and entire cities running on energy pulled straight from the air. If Maxwell is right, he hasn't just invented a better battery. He has unlocked unlimited free energy. But here's the catch that has scientists worldwide raising their eyebrows. This technology appears to violate the conservation of energy, the fundamental law that says you can't get more energy out of a system than you put in. Maxwell's response: physics laws aren't absolute. They're just limitations that haven't been overcome yet. And to be fair to him, he doesn't just talk. Since 2015, Maxwell has been putting on demonstrations that would make Elon Musk jealous. Television sets powering on without being plugged in. Generators running with no fuel source. And the most famous demonstration of all happened at Zimbabwe's State House, where government officials watched his electric vehicle, dubbed the Safe, perform flawlessly. The car was built in partnership with a Chinese manufacturer who provided the shell and basic components, but according to Maxwell, everything moving it runs entirely on his energy technology. Here's where the plot thickens though. When investigators press him for ongoing demonstrations or independent testing, the answers get slippery. That original electric car from 2015, he says it was dismantled. The helicopter and drone prototypes from his videos? They allegedly only work under controlled laboratory conditions and can't function outdoors. A machine that pulls energy from the air, but only indoors, is the kind of detail that makes you lean in. So the world has split into two camps, and both of them have a point. The believers see Maxwell as proof that African innovation can compete with Silicon Valley. They argue he's facing the same prejudice every revolutionary inventor has encountered, and they have history on their side. People once said powered flight was impossible, that computers would never fit in homes, that electric cars were toys. And they point out something you can't just wave away. Why would Zimbabwe's own president personally endorse Maxwell if his technology were fake? Why would the Harare Institute of Technology partner with his company, Salith Technologies? Why would investors keep pouring money in if nothing real were happening? The skeptics answer with a paper trail. A 9-year investigation by Zimai found that Maxwell has been making the same promises for nearly a decade without producing a single product anyone can buy. When asked to demonstrate his simplest functioning device, he allegedly couldn't provide anything concrete. The skeptics argue his demonstrations use modified Chinese electric cars readily available on Alibaba, possibly enhanced with hidden conventional batteries, and they note that not one independent scientific institution has ever verified his claims. Which brings us to the detail I promised you at the start, and it might be the most telling one in this entire story. Maxwell claims he cannot patent his revolutionary technology because patent offices told him it violates the laws of physics. Sit with that for a moment. If you had truly invented unlimited free energy, arguably the most valuable discovery in human history, wouldn't you move heaven and earth to protect it? His explanation raises more questions than it answers, but it also exposes a genuine dilemma. If your invention really did break the rules, how would you ever get a system built on those rules to recognize it? Follow the money, and the contradictions get even sharper. Mozambican businessmen have reportedly bet millions on his technology, and Safe Technologies maintains a professional presence with institutional partnerships. Yet, after nearly 10 years, there are no factories, no distribution networks, and no product on any shelf. Which raises the obvious question of how he keeps funding research with no revenue, and how long investor patience can possibly last. This is either the most patient investment in history, or a slow-motion problem. The comparison to Tesla makes the whole thing clearer. Elon Musk, with billions in funding and armies of PhD scientists, builds his empire on proven technology made better, desirable cars, charging networks, improved batteries, all within known physics. Maxwell claims to have leaped past all of that into revolutionary territory, which would make Tesla's entire business model obsolete overnight. But that's exactly why his claims are so hard to accept. How has a self-taught inventor in Zimbabwe supposedly solved what the world's brightest, best-funded minds cannot? There's also a bigger tension underneath this story, and it deserves honesty. Africa has long been portrayed as a recipient of technology rather than a creator of it, so there's immense pressure to prove African inventors can compete globally, and Maxwell represents that hope. But the same pressure can create an environment where bold claims get celebrated before they get verified, and where asking tough questions feels like betrayal. Even inside Zimbabwe's government, some officials reportedly dismiss him as a con artist, which is partly why he turned to foreign investors in the first place. And in fairness to his defenders, the traditional validation system isn't neutral either. African research institutions often lack the resources to properly test breakthrough claims, and international institutions may carry their own bias against work coming out of Africa. The gatekeepers being imperfect doesn't make Maxwell right, but it does explain why so many people want him to be. So, the truth I promised you. After a decade of demonstrations and promises, the honest verdict is that both sides are asking questions the other side can't answer. If his technology works, why has no independent institution verified it? Why are there no peer-reviewed papers, and why is there still nothing you can buy and test yourself? But if it's all fake, how has he sustained government support, institutional partnerships, and investor money for 10 years? And why would anyone maintain such an elaborate deception for so little apparent payoff? That leaves 3 possibilities, and you can decide which one you believe. Maxwell might have discovered something genuinely innovative that doesn't work the way he claims. He might be a brilliant inventor whose technology is real, but nowhere near ready for mass production. Or he might be a master showman who has convinced himself that his demonstrations prove more than they actually do. Here's what's certain either way. Maxwell has already achieved something no verdict can take from him. He made the whole world argue about African innovation. Major international outlets cover him, young inventors across the continent cite him as inspiration, and social media buzzes with his name. In a world where African breakthroughs are routinely overlooked, he commanded global attention, and that cultural impact may end up mattering as much as any invention. Whether he lands in the Hall of Fame or the Hall of Cautionary Tales, he has already changed how people think about where the next big idea can come from. The revolution may or may not be powered by radio waves, but it is definitely powered by the unshakable belief that impossible is just another word for not yet discovered. So now that you've seen both sides, I want your verdict. Is Maxwell Chikumbutso a genius the world isn't ready for, or the most convincing showman in Africa? Drop your answer in the comments and subscribe, because the moment his story gets a real ending, you'll hear it here first.